Hey everybody, Raziel here, coming back at you with another Smite God build for the Xbox One or any platform for that matter. This week we are bringing to the table Sylvanus, Keeper of the Wild for patch 4.4. He fills the role of Guardian for the Roman Pantheon and is a crazy old tree-hugging son of a gun who probably is the most laziest god in the game. This video is intended for those who are starting out with Sylvanus, those who need a refresher with the god, or those who find themselves going head to head with a Sylvanus in the dual lane and just get frustrated with all those wisps just healing up all the damage you doled out. When boom, you're rooted in place, pulled up against a living tree and impaled into the air, while those damn same wisps are now killing you and chunking away your health. We'll start out with his abilities, or kit as I call them, then go over the relics and item build, and finish off with ability combos and fighting scenarios. A little fun fact here, Sylvanus is actually the old guy on top of the tree. He doesn't do much except sit around and play those flutes, or I think it's a lyre actually is what it's called. The tree is named Grover, and he's actually also in Paladins and is going to make his way, I think, soon into Smite Tactics. So he's in the 3 most recent games from Hi-Rez Studios. Should be a mascot, in my opinion, if they're going to keep doing it that way. Sonic or Nintendo much? Anyway, not Nintendo, Mario. Where was I? If you liked the video please hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for future Smite guides. Also feel free to leave a comment below requesting any future gods, or just to say hello for the hell of it. Also, I've set up a clan on Xbox One called Victis. It's kind of small, kind of casual, but it's open for anyone to join if they like. Now let's get into those abilities. Before we get started, I have to go over a little housekeeping that I have in every video. I play with the Savage layout on Xbox One, which may look different from what you're playing with if you're going with the default. Also, PS4 has different buttons, and the PC and Mac have a different UI altogether. So as such, from now on I'll be calling out his abilities as 1, 2, 3, and 4. With the 1 all the way over to the left, and the 4, or ultimate, being all the way to the right. I really need to update the color of those, but that's just that. Hopefully this will clear up any possible confusion later on in the video. Let's go over those abilities. Alright, let me grab my notes here, and let's call up his passive. His passive is called Nature's Protection. It's enemies that successfully land a melee attack or basic attack against Sylvanus have a 25% chance to be rooted for 1 second. This may only happen once every 12 seconds. Now, I really didn't know about this passive. I really don't even think about this passive. And I never really look at his passive meter, which is right down there as well. I don't know what the hell that means. Sometimes it's fully green, sometimes it's black. Whatever, maybe that's to the 12-second timer, being able to root someone in place. When I'm attacking a Sylvanus, I never really think about it either. I never really notice if I'm rooted that often. But it's helpful for peel, it's helpful for setting up, and the like. So, next is his 1 ability, which is Verdant Growth. It's a ground target ability. He throws a seed to a target location. If it hits an enemy, they take damage, they lose protections, and they become rooted in place. If the seed lands on the ground and not hits anybody, after about 5 seconds it'll grow into a flower, providing MP5 to nearby allies. This ability is awesome. The pod can be destroyed by basic attacks. You can have a maximum of 3 pods up at once, and exploding and releasing poisonous spores that reduce protections of nearby enemies. So, what this means here, if you hit him a max rank with the damage, it's going to do 240 damage plus 35% of his magical power. The increase of NP5 is 20 across the board, which early game that is key. Even late game that can be crucial. It reduces protections for, from between 5 and 25 depending on what rank, and the root is for 1.25 seconds across the board. This is great. You can throw it on a couple pods early game under tower or something, and you and your hunter can essentially sustain on that. You don't need to buy many mana potions. Just use the Verdant Growth to keep your mana up. Also, it's a great initiation tool, etc., etc., which I'll go over later on in the video. That's pretty much all of his stuff is pretty good, pretty crucial in his combos. His second ability is Wisps, and I mentioned this earlier. I say ground target, but I think it's more of an area effect thing, because you don't throw it down like you do the seed. Here's one. You kind of just pop it, and everyone around you will be affected by it, any god around you. Sylvanus releases Wisps that seek out nearby allies and enemy gods. Allies are healed and protected, while enemies take damage over time. So what that means is if an enemy god is within the area, they take 30 damage at max rank, plus 10% damage, 10% of his magical power, for 5 ticks, one every 5 seconds. If it's healing, it's 35 plus 10% for 1 for 5 seconds again, and they gain protections of 30 for those 5 seconds. So not only are they healed, but they get protections of both physical and magical damage of 30 at max rank, and even 10 at the rank 1 is not too shabby over those 5 seconds. So it's a good ability for sustaining. His 3 is called Nature's Grasp. It does no damage, but he launches his Rudy hand out in front of him. His Trent, not Sylvanus himself, Grover. They should actually put his name in here. The hand stops at the first enemy god hit, stunning them and pulling them back towards Sylvanus. Again, this is one of his abilities that is good for initiation and good for chase or peel, etc., etc. Again, it does no damage, and it interrupts and brings them right front and center. His ultimate is called Wrath of Terra. It's a ground target. Again, it's more of an area of effect kind of thing around him. So Sylvanus's Trent Grover slams his large trunks onto the ground, causing large stony roots to break out of the ground around him. Enemies hit or knocked up and poisoned for 5 seconds. It deals 100 at max rank for 5 seconds, so that's 500 total, plus an additional 25% of magical power for 1 tick per 5 times. So essentially it's 500 plus another 125%. Kind of the math is what's going on there. So, that's pretty straightforward. He has good sustain. He has good card control, essentially, initiation, and knock-up scenarios, etc. So it's pretty straightforward. We'll go over again how to combo those towards the end of the video. And yeah, so let's just go right into his relics and item build then, shall we? Alright, so we've gone over his abilities, and now we're going to hit his relics and item build. I'm going to go over his item builds for Conquest and for Joust. I've been playing a lot of Joust lately, so I wanted to put that in there as well. These builds are situational. I always kind of say that in every video. The relics are situational. The item builds are situational. It could change depending on what's happening in future patches as well. I know in 4.5, the patch after this one, or the one currently in the game, they're taking rituals out. So no more flickering ritual and everything else. They'll bring them back at some point, modified or whatever, but those are going to be gone. So that will help late game matches and everything else. So we're going to start off with his relics. Now, he's primarily used in the dual lane as a true support for the most part. I mean, people can use him maybe in solo lane, but that's pretty much it. Stretching it into a jungle or anything else, maybe only pros will really do that on casual troll games kind of scenario. But dual lane or solo lane are essentially the only places you're going to see him. And I'm just going to put the build first. Dual lane, because I haven't seen a Sylvanus in solo lane in a while. Anyway, that being said, his first relic could be meditation. It could be a purification beads, like if you're going against an Ares or something like that, a Ymir, or something where you're kind of worried about, like a Ymir or an Athena Medusa combo kind of scenario where you're going to need to get out of whatever crowd control ability they're going to be throwing at you. You can also go into Magic Shell, depending on what you're going against. So it's up for debate. We're gonna go Magic Shell first. You know, you say you pop this, you know, because it increases your magical and physical protections in addition to what his ability does, his wisps, and by 30 for 5 seconds. In addition to what he does with the wisp for 5 seconds. So I think you could stack that, or, you know, when the wisps stop, you pop this, or when this stops, you pop the wisps, kind of scenario. All damage is reduced by 5 for that duration as well, 5%. So this is good because if you're not too worried about hard CC, pick this because it will help you keep your teammates alive. It'll help you keep yourself alive as well. But your dual lane, if you're starting to rotate in the mid lane and with the junglers there, you know, you can get mid laner and your jungler and everything else sustained depending on what they have for abilities. So that's why I would suggest picking this up first, potentially. You don't need meditation per se because his one has MP5 in it, and his wisps heal. So I mean that essentially, I mean it's a longer period of time. It's not instant like meditation is, but it does allow for you to sustain in health and mana within his kit alone. The second one I would go either purification beads at this point because you're probably getting hit with hard CC. Aegis, you know, maybe you've got a Neath, a Vulcan, a Zeus you're going against, or even you can potentially go with a sprint or whatever. Heavenly Wings is I think it's called now. Where the hell are they? Oh, right here, yeah. Heavenly Wings. You go with that as well. Those will probably be your best bets for your second pickup. I usually go Purification Beads just for the hell of it. We'll put that in there. The second one, totally up to what your team picks for relics and what the enemy team has for team comp. That whole situational thing I always beat to death. So we're going now into his Conquest items. You're going to want Watcher's Gift because it gives you health off the bat, it gives you protections, and it gives you MP5. But more importantly, it gives you gold, bonus gold, when you deal, when your hunter should be dealing the killing blow. So it gives you 5 bonus gold, and also restores health and mana as well. So this will help you sustain early game and help you still get that gold accumulation in order to buy the items and stay on par with the other gods. Because usually Guardians in a Conquest match are the lowest level gods on either team. They should be. Sometimes if you're steamrolling, your Guardian could be higher than their jungler or whatever. Solo lane should always be the highest. Dual lane, depending on how the team play is, it's becoming like the second solo lane now, and etc. etc. So pick up Watcher's Gift, and then start going into boots. Shoes of Focus. It gives you, you know, less magical power, but his scaling isn't that high. So I wouldn't worry too much about stacking that magical power. So I'd go for the cooldown reduction of 10% with Shoes of Focus to get those whiffs and everything else just going in the cycle a lot more frequently. For his next item, I don't see it here. You could go into a Sovereignty because it gives, again, protections, physical protections, and increases HP 5. So if more times than not, the enemy team will have 3 physical damaging gods. They'll have a hunter, they'll have a warrior, and they'll have a physical assassin jungler. So those should be the team comp. So this just helps your dual lane stay alive. Maybe by the time you get this, maybe you're doing some more rotations. It keeps your mid alive and everything else. So I would go with this. After that, you can go into Heartward or Amulet because it does the same thing, but with the magical side, and it increases MP5 as well. So this will help your team with protections and also more sustain, including the sustain on your kit. I mean, a Sylvanus with these core items right here could potentially help your team just stay topped off pretty much a whole hell of a lot more than if you didn't have a Sylvanus on your team. The protections are nice. The health is obviously a plus, but it's the MP5 and the protection in the passives that makes this and sovereignty so desirable. After that, you can probably go because Lotus Crown. Magical power, again, you're not super stoked about magical power, but it gives physical protections to yourself again, more MP5, and any god affected by your heals increases 20 physical and magical protections for the next 5 seconds. So let's just recap right now. Your wisps grant protections. Shell, if you pick it up, or whatever the hell it's called now, grants protections. This will add additional protections on top of your wisps. So your wisps, depending on, I am not saying that correctly, I don't think. Depending on what rank they are going to give you a certain amount of protections. And an additional 20 protections on top of that. And then whenever you pop your shell. I mean, you could keep, and the protections from your sovereignty and your hardware amulet. I mean, you are tanking up your team with this item build. And that's why I mean, I haven't seen the previous games or anything, but in the Pro League, Sylvanus was top tier. He was getting up there as a desirable guardian because of this ability to just tank up your team in addition to himself, and then heal on top of that. I mean, healing had changed a lot in Season 4, so I mean his heals were just as desirable as anyone else's. After that, we're gonna go straight into Gauntlet of Thebes, because why? You get 400 health, you get 15 HP 5, great. Oh, but it's another aura ability which grants gods physical and magical protections by 20 if they're within 70 units. So that's another 20 protections non-stop. So sovereignty, Heartward Amulet, Gauntlet of Thebes is tanking the hell out of your freaking teammates. Then his kit is tanking the hell out of his teammates. So in team fights, your team is more likely to take less damage and sustain with healing than the enemy team. So this could potentially give you a good amount of, an upper hand in a team fight. Now, Sylvanus is not an easy god to use. His wisps are easy, but his combos take skill, and we'll go over that here shortly. So we're going to pop that, and then after that, it's totally up to you. You can go Rod of Asclepius. It increases their healing, so it just keeps you that much more sustainable. You could go anything, really. It's all situational. I mean, at this point, you've got no cooldown, so you could go anything with cooldown. You could go, Breastplate of Valor. You could go into Mantle of Discord, just to give you that little bit much more. Or if you just want a straight cooldown, oh, you know what? You could even go into Gem of Isolation. You pop them with Wisps, and it just slows them down. Period. You know what? I'm just gonna throw that in there, right there, right there.
Isn't it nice?
Or if you don't want to do that, you could go with another aura item, which I don't know, Pythagorean's Piece or something else. Void Stone. But I think Gem of Isolation would be good, because if you hit the entire enemy team with your wisps, that tick damage, I believe, will keep refreshing that slow on Gem of Isolation. So that's a good, I think, last item. This is your Conquest build. Try it out. Change it if you want. I think this will keep you pretty good with all those protections, and keep your team pretty tanky as well. Now, in terms of, let's just sell everything. His Joust build, we're not going to have a starter item. He's going to be just starting out again with Shoes of Focus.
Sticks and stones.
And then we're going to go into Rod of Asclepius because we want the heals early on. It's going to be like a little more of a team fight. And then you go into Lotus Crown, again for the same reason why we bought it than before. And the passive on this, just increases the healing received. And then, Heart Ward Amulet, Gauntlet of Thieves, and maybe Mantle of Discord. This is a pretty standard Joust build. You can maybe, shift a Sovereignty in there if they're pretty much more, a basic attack. You would think there'd be a Guardian and a Mage in there, but maybe there's a Warrior and a Hunter, so maybe you use Sovereignty instead of Heart Ward Amulet and push that before the Rod of Asclepius. But, again, that's situational. Joust is definitely much more situational because you're going to be in a team fight more often than not, poking each other and whatnot because it's three in the lane, essentially, the entire game. But this build right here will work out. And Sovereignty, second item, would probably work just as good. Heart Ward would work just as good, and then the rest of the items as well. For relics, you might want to go with the same as well. I mean, it all depends on what they have. If they have an Ares and an Artemis, maybe I'd probably go with the Purification Beads first, and then maybe Shell after that. But for the most part, this will work out pretty good for your build in Joust. So that covers Conquest and Joust. We're going to segue now into combos and fighting scenarios and what to rank when. See you in a bit. So now we're going to get into his combos and whatnot. So before we do that, I just want to do another little note here that Sylvanus is the only Guardian and actually the only melee type class, because warriors and assassins and guardians usually are just basic attacking with their hands or items in their hands, except for Sylvanus. He throws things. He's a ranged god, so he's the only ranged god in a class that is primarily dominated by melee gods, etc. So we'll show that here in a moment. And then I also noted that he does take a fair amount of skill, and I'll go over that as well. So we're gonna mosey on over here to Odin Squared. Hey guys, and you can see right now my reticle or whatever has a little circle. That's a little area of effect thing, and he throws little jars of poison or spores or something else, and you can change it how close you want. You can do it furthest away. So you got to be wary of that, because you can actually, just demonstrate here, throw your basic attack over the enemies you're trying to hit, whether it's your minions or whether it's another god. So be careful. And see, you can get the range and you can hit there. Boom, boom, boom. And if they're close, just get within that circle. It doesn't have to be in the center. There's the center. It doesn't do any more damage, any less damage. Just as long as they're in the circle. Let's see. Even if they're on their toes on it, they're going to do damage. So that's his basic attacks, which differ from most guardians. Right there. So that takes a little bit of skill to actually realize, oh crap, he's closer than I anticipated. I'm throwing it over his dumb ass. Alright, so he has high sustain. We're gonna throw down his one here. We're gonna obviously miss, and you can see after 5 seconds this is gonna bloom. Like nice little animation there. Boom. Anybody within this radius, see as I leave the radius. If you look down there by my level, it's where it says 20. My MP5 is 52.6 naturally. I walk in there, it's 72.6. Even late game, because this is a late game build. That's friggin' huge. That's 20 more mana per 5 seconds. So essentially 4 more mana per second. And this can be, destroyed by a basic attack from an enemy, and they lose protections, etc., etc. Now, the other thing about this is You throw this and it hits an enemy god, it will root them in place, plus 2 damage, and boom. Did 222, and you can see they're rooted in place. Well, they were. The root disappeared, but that's the protection, the little aura bubble there was his protection shred. And that's, you know, that's pretty good. That's his one. Self-explanatory. It either heals, restores mana for you and everybody else on your team, or it will do damage and root them in place. And shred protections for 5 seconds or so. How many seconds was it? For, yeah, 5 seconds. So, that's that. His 2 is Wisps. Now, I don't have a friendly god, so it's gonna hit this Odin, and it's gonna do damage to him. Now, if he was a friendly Odin, it would heal him, and we're just gonna do it here. So he's on a radius, it goes over to him, and it heals him for a certain amount of. So, essentially, I think we get a little bit more than 34 health per second back, but that's pretty much that right there. And if with my Lotus Crown, they'd have a shield on themselves as well for those 5 seconds or whatever. Now his 3 is a straight line, and it's a pull, straight up pull. No matter how far you are, you know, I'm gonna go middle here. It pulls them over, and there they are. And I mean, you can still do attacks. Odin Squared is obviously gonna run over there. Now, a little fun thing here with this Odin here. I'm gonna do it with this one over here because I usually pick on the right Odin. Is you can really, like, wow, how the hell am I taking damage? Little bitch here. I'm actually gonna buy a ward to make this a little easier.
Always be prepared.
Put a ward right here, and I should be able to see that Odin now.
My little eye.
An enemy has been detected. See, okay, I can see him now. So I'm gonna pull this Odin right through that wall. You can pull. He can't make it over there again. That's why I wanted to do that specific one. People don't always know that you can pull them through the wall. You pull them through the wall like that. You separate them from their team, and you could potentially kill him, depending on what you got going on. He just gave up. Or you and your jungler, you and your hunter can just separate, you know, and dismantle and destroy. Fun fact right there. You can pull them through walls, and it's always great to just giggle at it because they have no friggin' clue what the hell just happened. You pull a mid laner through the wall to where the harpies are, and they're trying to figure out what the hell happened, and they get shredded. It's hopefully what the scenario plays out. Now his ultimate is another area of effect thing here, and I'm sure you've seen this. The spikes here will shoot up to the ground. It'll knock them up, will poison them, etc., etc. What's the cooldown on this? Here, we'll just do it, just to see it right now. Boom, and he also becomes CC immune during that time. As you could tell, when there's the poison, he glowed that yellow CC immune color. So when Ares tries to pull him, you can go CC immune. So you may not necessarily need purification beads, but even with an ability, like especially an ultimate that makes you CC immune, you usually have to hold that until you need to get out of Ares ult or something like that, instead of using it for an initiation or something more damaging. Now, while that's a cooldown, the ultimate is great because, say, you're going against a Loki in Joust or in Conquest, or a Bastet who jumps in, or anyone else that may have an easy escape, like a Giannis or something like that. You pop that, you knock them up, and they're not able to get out. A Loki ults on someone, you pop that, and you do a combo on them and everything, and it ruins their day. Bastet jumps in, and then you ult. They most likely are not going to be able to jump back to their location. Understand? A Bastet will jump in, try to unload her kit. You know, you let her do 1 or 2 abilities, depending on how your teammates are in terms of health. Then you pop your ult. She's not going to be able to bounce back. She's stuck right next to you, and you guys can turn and burn and hopefully get a kill out of that. So now let's get back to the high skill portion of this. As you can see, it takes skill. Well, a little bit of skill. I mean, there's a pretty decent radius for the root. But this takes some skill, because you're never going to have an enemy god just sitting there, twiddling his thumbs, pondering if he changed his underwear, etc., etc. So you're going to have to lead the shot, essentially. So a good Sylvanus will be able to unload his kit and do a lot of damage. I'm not a top tier Sylvanus, but I'm good enough, and in casual Joust matches I've been top damage on our team as a guardian who's also mostly just healing, just because I know the combos, and the randos were not that good anyhow. Those matches usually we lose where I'm top damage, but it's unfortunate, but he can still chunk out a lot of damage, and that's because his combos do a lot of work. So if you can land his 3, I always suggest you go with that first. You may not necessarily need to use your ult in any of your combos, but it's always good to have that ult if you want to try to destroy the god and send him back to Fountain. Especially early game, when you first get that ult, do it. If you're not confident in the ability to land his 3 and pull him into you, then initiate with his 1, because that will root the person in place and then allow you to hit them with the 3. Now, again, what's the cooldown on the 1? 9 seconds, you know, and I think I don't have much for cooldown reduction. Here, let's see. 25, that's not too bad. We're gonna go, if you're just starting out with Sylvanus, we're gonna go with the 1-3 ultimate, and then 2. That's what we're gonna go with, and that's how we're gonna fight it right here. So we're gonna root him in place with the 1, pull him with the 2-3, and then just go. Ready? So here we go. Root, pull, ultimate, wisps, attack, attack, attack. You know, and they should be, you know, getting slow. They, you know, should be chunked, and they're trying to get away. You root them again, and it's all done. Pretty damn good. You know, maybe I'll pull that guy back in, just for shits and giggles. Yeah, I'll do that here. So the pull is good. I don't think I can. Yeah. If you can land the 3, which I'm gonna wait just for that ultimate to pop down again, then definitely go for that. Where'd he go? Did I lose him? All right, let's go buy another ward so I can see him, so I don't screw this up. Oh, that's why he's getting attacked by friendlies. Let's just put a ward right there.
A little birdie told me.
So, let's not get that close. I don't want to lose all my levels. So, if you can land that 3, you're confident with that 3, and always try to land that 3, because you want to have the 1 as a backup, because I'll go over that here in a second. Excuse me. We're going to go, you can go with a 3, 2, 1, ultimate. Or 3, 1, 2 ultimate. I think we'll go 3, 1, 2 ultimate. That'd be the safest bet. You pull them in, you root them, you wisp them, and as they're starting to run away, you hit them with the ultimate. One and done. Actually, you know, we're gonna switch that up. Let me take that back. 3, 1 ultimate, 2. Or here you go, 3 ultimate, 2-1. I mean, the combos, depending on how good you are, could be pretty good. Once you start with the 3, I mean, you have to start with the 1. It's pretty much 1, 3, alt 2 scenario. So we're gonna go 3, 1, alt wisps. That's what we're gonna do here. Okay, ready? 3, root, alt, wisps. Boom. Get this bitch. Get him good. So that's it. I mean, considering his kit, his 3 doesn't do any damage. It's just a crowd control thing. His 1 is a crowd control thing, but it does do some damage. And his wisps is a heal as well. So there's not much in terms of combos. Like I said, if you can land that 3 first, you can switch up the order in which you do the damage. But that will do a lot of damage quickly / over time. And by the time they, your 1 and your 3 and your wisp come back up again, if they're not dead, and you're able to chase them down still or stick on them, then you can hit them with a root, pull them back, and wisp them again, kind of scenario. So that's in a nutshell. The order in which I usually rank him up is wisps first, his 2, then his 1, because the pull doesn't do any damage. I mean, the only difference between ranks for his 3 is the cooldown, and it's only a 3-second cooldown over that, and the cost goes down as well. But I would rank up the 2, the 1, ultimate whenever it pops up, and then 3 is the last ditch scenario. I hope this helped you out. I hope it, you guys try this out, get to use them a lot, pretty good. Hopefully it don't go against you as a Sylvanus, because Sylvanus can be pretty bad. He can be countered with a Divine Ruin, so be careful. And leave a like for the video, sub to the channel for more guides coming down the line, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.